First Man is directed by Damien Chazelle, and it's his third movie to direct behind Whiplash and La La Land.
Yeah, and this movie stars Ryan Gosling, Claire Foy, Jason Clarke, and Kyle Chandler. And this movie is about Neil Armstrong. There you go. If you don't know who that is, look it up on Google. This movie, I don't really know if I technically expected it to be like some amazing movie, but I expected it to actually be pretty good, at least. Because Damien Chazelle, in proportion to how many movies he's made against other directors, he's really one of my favorite directors. Because he made movies like Whiplash, which is just a fantastic movie, especially for his directorial, theatrical release.
Yeah, debut.
Yeah, and then La La Land was like one of my favorite movies of the whole year in 2016. Mm-hmm. And then Ryan Gosling, he's just this beautiful man that I have a complete man crush on. But I'm gonna say this movie was just a little disappointing to me.
I'm gonna say that unfortunately I didn't love it. Mm. It's still a really good movie, but one thing I did was surprising was it's more of a, like, when you think of it like a space movie, like especially like recent years, like Gravity, even Hidden Figures was sort of a space movie, though it didn't really show the space part. But this one was more of like a slow burner compared to those movies. Yeah, because it more focuses on Neil Armstrong's family life. Yeah. And I can respect them for wanting to do that, but at the same time, it does sort of bring the movie down, and especially since the writing on that aspect, which is probably one of my biggest negatives for the movie, is that the writing for the relationship down on Earth wasn't that great. I will say though that the space scenes, like anything that had to do with space, was just phenomenal. It was it was just pure greatness, and especially the moon setting, which, spoiler alert, they do get to the moon, although it could have been faked or whatever. But anyways, in this movie at least, no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist on that. But anyways, the setting that they had for the moon was like so fantastic. Yeah. Like even when they had the footprint. Whenever Neil Armstrong made the footprint, it looked like the actual picture of whenever you see like the footprint on the moon. Yeah. It looked exactly like that. It was just like so massive, the setting was too, which I don't know how much CGI they used, but it was just amazing to see.
Hey, also a quick little thing here. Whenever he lands on the moon, he says one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Did you know he didn't actually say that? He said one small step for a man. Yeah. One giant leap for mankind.
Which is a pretty big difference.
Yes, it's a big difference because one small step for man and mankind are the same thing. So if you say one small step for a man,
he's talking about himself.
He took a little step, right? like that. But if you go like a giant leap, right?
For mankind, for everybody.
Yeah. There's a little history lesson for you that nobody tells. Even whenever I went to NASA in Houston, they didn't tell me that.
Which that's also the reason why in the movie they didn't show them sticking the American flag onto the moon, because they wanted to be more of a all-encompassing type of, that it was an accomplishment for all mankind.
This movie is really uncinematic, and it kind of sounds like a bad thing, which in this case it kind of does come to a fault, but I do like the idea that the movie is not cinematic, even in the space scenes. Like, I love the space scenes. The space scenes are beautiful, but there's never like any dramatic music that ever happens. There's not really a lot of music in this movie in general. Any music that's used is usually in either dramatic scenes or it's very subtle music. But the idea of it not being so cinematic I like, because it just makes the movie seem a lot more real than it would have been than all these other movies. And a lot of this movie just does seem real, because like the camera is handheld, and handheld always does connect to making things look more real. Unlike if it was to be set up on like a stand or a tripod, it does look more fabricated. And so this movie does do a good job of making things look more real. Now, even though I do find this movie a little disappointing, and I brought up Damien Chazelle right before that, it's a little misleading, because Damien Chazelle's directing is fantastic in this movie. Damien Chazelle's directing is always fantastic, and pretty much and all the aspects like that are really well done. With the cinematography is really beautiful.
This is actually, I think, the first time that Damien Chazelle has directed a movie, which he's only directed 3 movies so far, but this is his first time directing a movie that he didn't write.
Yeah,
and it's also his first movie to direct that was not musically based.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, I mean, like you said, the directing overall, I have no like issues with it, like at all, and especially the last like 40 minutes, I believe, just where it's just like pure greatness.
Now, I really don't know anything about Neil Armstrong myself. He's portrayed as, because it really shows this is tragic life that Neil Armstrong had, you know? And so he's shown to be this guy pretty much with really bad, I would say almost really bad depression, but to the point where he hides it. He really just keeps to himself about it. And I really, that's what I love about Ryan Gosling. If you're going to have a character that really is sad, badly sad and depressed, that keeps to himself, Ryan Gosling is one of the most subtle actors of today. He's probably like one of my favorite actors of today.
For most of the movie, it's just hard. It was hard for me to feel invested in these characters, especially. I mean, even though they added like so many things that could have added so much to the depth to the movie into Neil Armstrong's character, it just didn't really feel right. Like there's something that happens with his daughter, like at the very beginning of the movie, which Ryan Gosling acted like perfectly. So it's nothing to do with how Ryan Gosling did it. It's just I didn't really feel for it, and they tried to like have this family aspect.
Yeah.
And like it was just hard. It made it hard to watch, especially with the runtime for the movie.
Yeah.
It's like 2.5 hours, 2.5 hour movie. And it was just hard to feel invested in.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing, because only really with this movie is pretty perfect overall, but it has a weak link, and a really major weak link in the writing. And I think one horrible decision they made, which I understand why I kind of understand why they made it, but not to the extent that they did. This movie is called First Man, so it's going to obviously be about Neil Armstrong, first man to step on the moon, right? So it's going to be about him, but it focuses on him to a point where it seems like everything else is just gone. You know, you almost forget that things are actually there. There's such a disconnect in this movie with his family life. It almost feels like that's just like it feels like that's a different movie, even though you know what it's. Even though it's about this, and they have a lot of conversations about the moon and his moon landing and all that, his family feels like it's not part of this film. It's just so disconnected from everything else.
Yeah, especially since like Buzz Aldrin is in this movie, which I don't know the whole story about the first moon landing and all that, so I don't know how important Buzz Aldrin was.
Yeah.
But I mean, he went with Neil Armstrong, so I feel like. And he was barely in it, which is the point I'm trying to make. That they barely even had him in the movie when he went to the moon with Neil Armstrong.
And one of the worst things is they never portrayed him to be like a good guy.
Oh yeah, no,
He seemed like a jerk in every scene he was in. He always had something bad. Like if someone died, he made a joke about it.
Yeah, it was sort of awkward.
That was practically his character. Was someone died, I'm gonna make a joke about it so I can move up or something like that.
For the IMDb questions, we only have one question for this one. So
boo!
All right, question 1 and the only one. Who was originally going to direct this movie? A. Clint Eastwood, B. Steven Spielberg, C. Ridley Scott, or D. Michael Bay?
Whoa, that would be interesting right there.
Yeah, I mean, he directed Armageddon, which is totally a great movie.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna say Clint Eastwood.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
It's actually funny because our last review, A Star Is Born, he's actually going to direct that movie too. But yeah, you're correct. He was also going to direct this movie.
Man, he just keeps dropping out of everything. Well, guys, I really do believe overall this is actually a pretty good movie. I thought it was actually really good, and I do technically recommend this because practically everything is perfect on this, except it had one weak link, and that was the writing. But it was a major issue. I'm going to go ahead and say that First Man is 75% awesome.
If you're really interested in space movies and especially the first moon landing, I would definitely say go see this movie. It's definitely directed perfectly. It does have amazing space scenes. But it is a slow burner, which I mean, some people might like it. I know it will turn some people off. it kind of turned me off. But it overall was a decent movie. I'm gonna say that First Man is 70% awesome.
Well, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment and let us know what you thought about First Man, and also let us know maybe what is your favorite space movie.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at 2 Awesome Men.
And as always, thank you so much for watching, and you will see us later.